Mamanuta Island greeted us with the scent of decaying orchids, salt air, and a mist so thick it felt like a damp blanket. Here, on the edge of the archipelago, time seemed to have frozen in a pool of dark amber. The locals believed the jagged clefts were gods turned to stone, and the rustle of the palm fronds was their eternal argument over the fate of mortals. I adjusted the strap of my toolkit and sighed. My mind was occupied with only one thing: the mysterious death of the high shaman, Baru. He had been found in his ritual hut yesterday at dawn, but my thoughts were interrupted by a loud "ouch!" followed by the distinct snap of branches and a dull thud. "Kai, are you all right?" I asked without looking back. "Perfectly," came the optimistic yet muffled voice from somewhere inside a fern thicket. If you don't count the fact that I just discovered a rare species of thorny shrub with my spine, and it seems my glasses have decided they'd rather live a life independent of my face. I turned around. My loyal, if catastrophically clumsy, assistant and classmate, Kai, was trying to untangle himself from a mess of vines. His hair, perpetually messy, was full of dry leaves, and the left lens of his glasses had a thin spiderweb crack. He looked ridiculous, yet in his eyes, whenever he looked at me, there was always something I couldn't quite categorize in my deductive handbook. Something warm, lingering, and slightly desperate. "Let me help," I said, reaching out a hand. Kai froze, staring at my palm as if I were offering him a priceless artifact from the Ming Dynasty. He awkwardly gripped my fingers, tripped over his own boot, and nearly sent us both tumbling into the mud. His face ended up inches from mine. He turned a deep shade of crimson and scrambled back, almost falling again. "Sorry," he muttered, frantically adjusting his glasses. The oxygen molecules are very slippery here." "Focus, Kai," I said sternly, ignoring his strange behavior. "We have a locked room mystery on our hands. Shaman Baru was found dead in a hut, bolted from the inside with a heavy iron bar. There wasn't a single scratch on his body, but his face was frozen in a grimace of such absolute horror. It was as if he had seen death itself in its true form. And yet," Kai added, his expression shifting instantly. His gaze became sharp, piercing, that look that made me value him more than any computer. He said, "When the body was removed, no one noticed one detail. Loli, did you catch it? The hut didn't smell like ritual incense. It smelled like freshly cut grass, but there are no meadows on this island."
We approached the crime scene. The shaman's hut stood on high stilts above the dark water of the lagoon. A crowd of somber islanders stood nearby, whispering about the wrath of the spirits of Mamanuta. The village elder, a burly man covered in traditional tattoos, blocked our path. "This is the curse of the Mask of the Laughing Spirit," he rasped. "Baru disturbed the peace of the ancients. You city folk should not be here." I silently showed our government permit and stepped inside. Kai followed me like a shadow, catching his jacket on the doorframe as he entered. Inside, it was dim and heavy. I knelt, examining the floor. Smooth planks of rosewood. The door bolt, heavy hand-forged iron. To slide it shut, one had to be inside. There were no windows, only narrow ventilation slits just beneath the roof, too small for even a cat to squeeze through. "Loli, look at this," Kai said, sitting in the corner and squinting at a woven mat. He had managed to drop his notebook again, but as he picked it up, he noticed something. "See these marks? tiny circular indentations, as if a tripod stood here, or a very heavy cane. But Baru didn't use a cane. "Good work, Kai," I said, moving closer. "But look at the threshold. See this thin gray line? It's ash, but not wood ash. This is the ash of a cigar, a very expensive mainland cigar." "So the spirits have taken up premium tobacco?" Kai smiled, but then yelped as an empty fruit basket, which he had accidentally bumped with his elbow, fell onto his head. "Ow! It attacked me!" I shook my head, hiding a small smile. "Help me move this chest." Together, we pushed the heavy wood aside. Beneath it, a nearly invisible slit in the floor appeared. Not a hole, but a deliberate thin saw cut. I pulled out my tweezers and extracted a tiny, translucent fragment of fishing line from the gap. "Let's assemble the facts, Kai. We have a locked room, the smell of grass, cigar ash, and a fishing line. How do you close a bolt from the outside?" "Simple. If you use a loop of line threaded through a beam and tied to the handle of the bolt. You pull the line from beneath the floorboards, the bolt slides around it. A faint white residue remained. It wasn't a curse, it was a mechanism. The smell of grass, that's curare, and rare Amazonian poison. In certain concentrations, it smells like new mown hay. It causes instant cardiac paralysis. It freezes the muscles, leaving the victim with that horrific expression." "But the mask was on the wall," Kai noted, standing up and gingerly rubbing his bruised knee. "To trigger the needle, the mask has to be pressed against the face." Exactly. The killer knew that Baru performed the purification of the mask every full moon. He coated the needle and set the trap. Baru took the mask down to wash it, and in that ritual moment, or rather, he put it on. But who could get such a rare poison and smoke Monte Cristo cigars? I stepped out of the hut. The crowd was still waiting. My gaze settled on the elder's young assistant, a man named Tano. He was standing slightly apart, nervously rubbing his fingers. On his expensive linen suit, clearly bought in the city, I noticed a tiny dark smudge. "Tano, that's a very beautiful watch. A gold chronograph, the latest model. Where does a simple islander get such a thing?" Tano flinched. "It was a gift from tourists." "Tourists don't give away items worth the annual budget of this island," I snapped. "Kai, show him what you found." Kai, who at that moment was trying to lean elegantly against a railing, but was instead slowly sliding off it, straightened up instantly. He pulled a small, empty glass vial from his pocket. He must have picked it up when he fell near the chest. I hadn't even seen him do it. "A vial that contained concentrated curare extract," Kai said in his professor voice. "It bears the logo of the pharmaceutical company you worked for in the city, Tano, and I suspect that in your pocket we will find a scrap of the same fishing line you used while standing under the stilts of this hut." Tano turned pale and bolted, but tripping over a tree root, in a manner very much like Kai's, he face-planted into the sand. The islanders swarmed him immediately. "Why?" I asked, walking up to him. "Baru wouldn't sell the land for the resort," Tano hissed. "He kept talking about sacred groves. He was standing in the way of progress." "He was standing in the way of your greed," I corrected coldly. That evening, as the boat carried us away from Mamanuta, the mist began to clear. The sea was calm, reflecting the first few stars. Kai sat at the bow, trying to glue his glasses back together.
"You know, Loli," he said softly, not looking at me, "you were amazing today, the way you connected the ash and the mask." "We were amazing, Kai," I said, sitting beside him. "Without your eye for detail and your, well, unique way of investigating the floor, I wouldn't have seen that vial." Kai smiled, and for a moment he found his courage. He reached out and covered my hand. His palm was warm and it trembled slightly. "Loli," he said softly, "I've wanted to say, the reason I'm always stumbling when I'm around you isn't just my clumsiness. It's just that when you're near, my center of gravity seems to shift towards your heart." I looked at our joined hands, then at him. In my head, hundreds of theories, deductive chains, and logical conclusions flashed by, but not one of them explained why my breath had suddenly hitched in my throat. "Kai," I said seriously, "that sounds like a severe inner ear imbalance. You should really have that looked at." Kai sighed, his shoulders slumping for a second, but he didn't pull his hand away. He only gave a sad, affectionate little laugh. "You're hopeless, Loli. When it comes to investigations, you're a genius, but as for the rest, you clearly need an expert's help." "Perhaps," I said, tightening my grip on his fingers just a little, though I didn't quite know why. "But I already have the best assistant in the world. Where are we going tomorrow?" "They say a monk who could walk through walls has gone missing in the highlands of Tibet," Kai said, brightening up. He immediately knocked an oar into the water with his elbow. "Oops, I'll get it." I watched him scramble to retrieve the oar and felt that perhaps the next investigation wouldn't be the most important thing in my life. But of course, I didn't say that out loud. A detective must have her secrets, and this one was only just beginning to unfold under the quiet whisper of the waves.